We are going to talk today about ramping up your fundraising. So for all of you team captains and top fundraisers who are participating in a race or a walk, this one is for you guys. And so I'm super excited to have Courtney Bugler here today to talk to us, to help us kind of kick off our fundraising and talk about some ways that you can take it to the next level. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Courtney.
Hello, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming and being a part of our nationwide call for participants in our fall events. So for those of you who are on the phone or who are at your computer or listening in, we are super excited to have you. You are a part of the over 100 events that we have around the country, and your leadership is really a part of how we can help accomplish our world without breast cancer, which I know is everybody's goal. So with that, and those of you who are calling in on the phone, I will say if you would please bear with us a little bit, but for those of you who have access to a screen, definitely turn it on if you can, because what we'd like to do is just kick things off here with just a little video about why we're all doing what we're doing.
Has been our rock.
So hopefully that got you a little bit in the mood. We know that you all have events that are coming up soon. And just a little housekeeping, for those of you who are on the call and you might be a team captain or a fundraiser, and as you walk through this, you're thinking to yourself, man, I really wish that my friend Sally knew about this, or there's some really cool information. After this call, we will be sending a link to this presentation to all of our attendees for the call, and that will have a link to the recording. So if there's anybody out there that you know that you would like to pass this on to, we certainly encourage that. So my name is Courtney Bugler, and I am the National Director for Race for the Cure / More Than Pink Walk. Some of you are involved in a race in your local community, and some of you are a part of our reimagined event experience at the More Than Pink Walk. Either way, it's our signature fundraising event that reaches over 500,000 people each and every year. I am also a 13-year survivor, and that's me looking kind of serious. I think that might have been right before I did a little bit of ugly crying at our survivor procession at an event. But we are here because we wanted to make sure that you as team captains or as fundraising participants have all the tools that you need, especially if you've got events that are coming up, a week, 10 days, up to, through November, that we can make sure that you have all the tools that you need to raise as much money as possible in order to serve the most men and women who are affected by breast cancer. So we just want to get started. A couple of things. Remember is that if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat or in the Q&A. We're going to be monitoring that all throughout this call today. And we are more than excited to help you with any sort of fundraising questions that you might have. So this is the part where we're interactive. It's a little bit different than when you're in your local affiliate, you're coming to a kickoff. So we want to make sure that we can see a little bit about you. So we're going to put up a little poll. So feel free to answer some of these poll questions that pop up. And we are going to be asking you a couple things. Let us know, for example, in the chat, you could put in, where are you from? What event are you a part of? And let us know, are you here for a race or a walk? And are you kind of a first timer? Are you a veteran? And then, of course, let us know if you're a team captain. So come on, fill those things out. And feel free to, if you have any comments, to put those in the chat. We'd love for you guys to connect with each other too. So if you want to let people know where you're from, feel free to put that in the chat, and that way we can see if we can identify some of you who might actually be from the same place and you don't even realize it. So we're going to keep that poll open for a few minutes. But again, we really want to be able to determine where you're from and how we can help you more. So a reminder, definitely if you have questions as we go through here, to certainly let us know, and we'll make sure that we're going to try and cover everything today. So just so you know, we're going to talk a little bit about Susan G. Komen, especially for those of you who are brand new. And we're going to speak a little bit about the event itself and what we're trying to do in our local communities. And so welcome. I see we've got a few people from Jersey, San Francisco, Kansas. This is awesome. So remember, you all are a part of our leadership of our events. And we're going to talk specifically about how, if you're a part of a team, how you can grow your team. And then, of course, really supercharge your fundraising. And we'll speak to a little bit about some recognition that we have available, and also share some cool ideas for fundraising as we move forward, and then answer some questions. So we look forward to spending the next 45 minutes or so with you to kind of hopefully give you guys some updates on some really great ways that you can bring as much money as possible to you on your event day in the next few weeks. So first thing is, who is Susan G. Komen? So our mission is to save lives by meeting the most critical needs in our communities and investing in breakthrough research. So one of the things that some people don't realize is that Susan G. Komen is an amazingly interconnected web of local affiliates who are serving the local needs of your communities, as well as a centralized national organization that really tries to focus on a broad research portfolio. And so that way, not only do we affect our bold goal of trying to reduce the number of breast cancer deaths by 50% by 2026, and we do that through two ways. And that's through research and through access. So quite often when you are raising money for your local event, you are raising money for both of those things. Not only ensuring that we can fund the most cutting edge research possible to help reduce those deaths by breast cancer, but also make sure that the people in your community can help having access to diagnostics and treatments and treatment support, in order to make sure that they always have access to the very best that is possible. And the way that we reach our mission is through our pillars. So one of the things some of you might have seen if you look on your race or your walk website is you'll see that we are not just pink, we are more than pink. And so we have 4 pillars of our organization. So when you're wondering, where does the money that you're raising go? Or if you're wondering, if somebody asks you, okay, if I give you $100, what is it going to do? It's going to help fund these 4 pillars. So obviously there's research. And not only is it research, but it's helping get access to important clinical trials and helping to discover new treatments. Then we've got care. And this is a lot of work that's being done on your local level especially, which is safety net programs, gaps in access, and then also help with some of the very vital and important needs like patient navigation or transportation or childcare. We also have a treatment assistance program. So if someone is struggling paying some of their bills related to treatment, they can call into our treatment assistance hotline and they can be a part of that program. We also address access to clinical trials and help people get matched to the right research trial. So these two things really go hand in hand. And then, of course, we talk about our community. And what happens at the community level is slightly different depending on where you are, because our affiliates are really great at assessing the needs of our local communities. And quite often when you go onto your local affiliate website, you'll see where they talk about their grantees and their services based on their community needs assessment. And so this is where we also provide education and support. We do things like conferences for those with metastatic breast cancer happening in our communities. So this is where our communities really come together and determine what's best for them and provide some much needed education and support. And then there is action. And that is sort of our advocacy arm. So obviously, even though we are the single largest breast cancer funder outside of the federal government, we can't do it alone. And so it's really important that we train and we activate advocates. And you don't have to be real fancy to be an advocate. Often it's anyone who is touched by breast cancer. And we encourage them to advocate on both the local or the state or the national level to help educate our healthcare providers and our policies, especially about the burden of breast cancer. It's not just enough to have great cutting edge treatments and to have access, but sometimes there are things that are standing in our way. And so you can go to Komen.org and you can check out our advocacy platform, and you can see how we really try to empower our patients and the public to make sure that we can take charge of our breast health. So where does this go, you think? So you'll see here, this is in the past year, and we're going to talk a little bit about the left-hand side, which is our research portfolio. And this is how our research is split up. And you'll see it's everything from more effective treatments to diagnoses, prevention. The most important thing, however, is what's not seen here is that over half of our research portfolio is designed to fight metastatic breast cancer. And metastatic breast cancer is the breast cancer that spreads beyond the breast, and that is the breast cancer that unfortunately can take lives. And so Susan G. Komen in the last few years has really determined that focusing exclusively and majority on metastatic breast cancer research is really where we're putting a lot of our time and energy. And then if you look here on the right side, that's our care. And the vast majority of that is provided at the local level. And so you can go and you can speak to your affiliate, and if you are attending Race for the Cure or More Than Pink Walk, I'm sure they'll speak to it as well. But you'll see just the number of people that we help with screenings and diagnostics and treatment assistance throughout the country in any given year. We are the single largest breast cancer nonprofit that is really trying to fight this disease in a 360-degree view. And so you'll see that reflected in the work that we do all throughout the country, and of course the work that you all are helping to fund. So what is Race for the Cure and More Than Pink Walk? So we see that there are a couple of you that are first timers. Awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Race and Walk is our commitment to take action. So what we know is that it's not enough just to come, and not that I don't love a good pink tutu. I think, as you saw in my picture, I also love a good hot pink feather boa. But what we're really trying to do is raise money. And we're raising money so we can help save lives. But not only that, it's also a place where we come together. And this is the part where we're able to share our stories. Sometimes we're remembering those we lost, people that we're honoring for their survivorship, and those that we are recognizing who might still be living with metastatic breast cancer each and every day. And it really is the biggest single gathering of people who care about those with breast cancer and want to put an end to this disease. And I will just speak as a survivor for a second. There is nothing more powerful than wearing that pink t-shirt and looking around at a crowd of thousands of people and knowing that you are not alone. So for those of you who are here that are not survivors or living with metastatic breast cancer on this call, thank you, because it is not without your work and your commitment that this is all possible. So we are super excited that you are here to join us and be a part of this amazing event. And how many of these events are there? There's over 100 of them all around the country. So those of you who are invited today, you are all part of events that are taking place either from this week to through November. And then we obviously have events that start after the first of the year and go all year round. So in our over 100 events, and there are some events that unfortunately you can't see because they're not in the continental USA, is we have over 20,000 teams. So if you are a team captain, you are a part of an amazing group of individuals who are taking a leadership role. And we have almost 500,000 participants and volunteers at our event each and every year. So one of the great things about these calls, we're going to be doing some more of them over the coming year, is we know how important it is for you all to be involved in your local event. And quite honestly, when the majority of the money that you raise stays locally to help support your community, that's really important. But you are a part of something bigger. And it is you and about 500,000 of your closest friends who are all in this together to create a world without breast cancer. So if you're a team captain, or if you're here as an individual, you can apply this to your individual fundraising as well. But what are the most important things you've got to do if you are trying to really try and raise as much money as possible? So obviously, the most important thing is to register your team online. Most of you have already registered online. That's how you got this invitation. We will say that those who register online raise a lot more money than those who don't. We're going to talk to you a little bit about how you can personalize your page and tell your story. It's not just enough to register. There are some tools, and you'll be amazed for those of you who have never really posted to social media or shot out a few emails, just how easy it is to raise hundreds of dollars without really working that hard, as long as you tell your story. And that, of course, would be my dog. So I work from home, and my dog thinks it's really important to share your story too. And actually, if we were to show one of my personal fundraising pages, you'd probably see a picture of her. The other thing is, if you're a team captain, we really encourage you to recruit as many people as possible. Now, if you are a team of 2, okay, rock on. You are still a team. But we are trying to get as many people as possible to come and be a part of this single event. So if you're a team captain, think about ways that you might be able to get 10 people to help to register. And then we'll talk a little bit about how you can use emails and social media to reach out to your coworkers, your family, your friends. Really, there's nobody that you could think of that you might talk to that you can't tell them a little bit more about what you're doing and why it's important. Does anybody have any questions so far? Great. Okay, and just a last call. We are going to close this poll in just a few minutes. So last call, if you haven't yet completed that poll, just to let us know what event you're a part of and whether or not you're a first timer or a veteran, that would be awesome. So we'll be closing that in just a minute. So what are some things that you want to think about with your team? So the number one thing that we'll talk about is setting a goal. So you start with, how much money do you want to raise? But one of the things that you'll find is that sometimes it's not really that easy, right? You're not quite sure, how much money can I raise? How much money should I be thinking about raising? We will tell you that the average team, and that's how it's set up in the system, raises about $2,500. I know some of you might be on here going, man, that's a lot of money. I'm not sure if my team of 3 can do that. So that's where you think about how you might set up your goal. And the reason that we talk about setting goals first, and this is not just with your team, but with your individual goal as well, is setting a goal is the first step to sharing with people why you're doing what you're doing and what they need to do to help you. So it is not just enough to register. You want to be able to share that story, and being able to talk about setting your goal is an important part of that. So if you have a team, or if you're a part of a team, or maybe you're even registered as an individual, and after you do this, you're thinking, maybe I should get myself a team, in which case you can go online and you can communicate with your local event, and they'll help turn your individual registration into a team. When you're thinking about how much money you can raise, you want to think about a few things. Like, how many people do you think you can get to join your team? So if you think that you might be able to get 20 people because you're going to get your office, all of a sudden that $2,500 doesn't feel so big anymore. So think about how you can get as many people as possible. If you're a family and friend team, is that your neighborhood? Is that your kids' soccer team? What are the ways that you can get your as many team members on your team? Think about how many people you think can raise at least $100. And I will tell you, having done this for a very long time, and this is even for organizations where I have not been personally affected, but it's not this too hard in this day and age to raise $100. And we'll tell you a few tips of how you can do that probably within a couple of days. But think about how many people might be raising, $100. Think about if you're going to do any sort of events. Now, if you are participating in a race or a walk, next week, you may have a hard time putting this together. But if you're a couple weeks from now, there's no reason why you couldn't, ask to do a jeans day at your office, and everybody throws in $5, or a raffle, or maybe you would want to go and do some sort of either garage sale or an ice cream social or something at your church or in your community center or in your neighborhood. The fundraising events that you do to raise money for your team, that's really where your team gets to come together, and it's also really fun. And then, of course, looking at those things, how high can your team fundraising goal be? And what we would really encourage is that when you get off this phone or off the computer and you're thinking to yourself, all right, maybe I do have some ideas, I'm not quite sure. The most important thing you can do is reach out to your local event, which will be on the website, and say, hey, I want some help setting goals and talking to my team, and help me get my page set up. And there are staff and volunteers all around the country whose sole job it is to make sure that you have everything that you need for your fundraising. Now, somebody asked a question about how can I get materials for people who want to contribute cash? If you go onto your local website, quite often there are downloadable donation forms that you can do that and download it and put it, write it all down and you can send it in. Or if they're going to give you checks, we're going to show you how you can use technology to get those checks taken care of right away. So when you're talking about all of your personal and your team fundraising, so registering, which we know most of you already have because you're here, and then setting your goals. So if you are an individual fundraiser, you really want to set your goal yourself. And I would really encourage you all, if you have fundraised and been a part of this event in the past, think about how you might be able to raise a little bit more. Is it about getting a couple of more people on your team who might do a little bit of fundraising? If it's personally, I'm going to send out a few more emails or do a little bit more reminders. Figure out what your goal is going to be. And then the most important thing is sharing your story. That fundraising page doesn't do any good if you never tell anybody where it is. So we really talk about sharing our stories because, quite honestly, when we talk about the effect of this disease on people's lives and we talk about the need for funds to drive us towards our bold goal, it is your stories that help get you there. So it's altogether too often sometimes where people think that, breast cancer is not that urgent anymore. And for those of you who are personally affected, you very much know that breast cancer is in fact unacceptable, and it is still affecting people each and every day. And I myself, as a long-term survivor, I often use this time to share my story because I'm far out. And so people sort of forget about some of the things that I did deal with and still am dealing with. And so sharing your story is a very important part of that. So I'm gonna stop for a second, and I'm gonna give you a little, this is where I'm gonna put on my kind of psychology hat, right? So why do you think people will give you money? This is audience participation. Put it in the chat. Why do you think people give money? So we've got because they were connected, because it's a cause they care about. Oh, somebody's got a good one. They trust you because they want to see a cure, because they care about you in honor of those they love. These are all excellent, excellent reasons of why people give money. But the number one reason people give money is because they're asked. Quite simply, that is the simplest thing that makes the difference. And all too often, what we see is we make assumptions that people don't want to be asked, or that they won't give if they're asked. But really, the number one reason people give is because they ask. And I will be honest, they have to be asked more than once. Just ask my mother. She usually has to be asked 7 or 8 times before she gives. The other reasons they give, however, are deeply personal. And when we say personal, it's personal to them, actually. And they give because they're asked, but they give because they care about you. So many of your friends, family, and coworkers would give you money, whether you were raising money for breast cancer or raising money for any of the numerous other important causes out there. But the main reason they're giving you money and they're donating to this cause is because they care about you. And funny enough, the third reason is because it makes them really feel good to donate. And you'll notice that the top 3 reasons that people give actually have to do with how it makes them feel before you and before the cause. So one of the things that we always say is if you are one of those people who's kind of a little bit afraid to ask, number 1 is don't be afraid, people expect it. Number 2, there are lots of ways to ask now that are kind of like not all up in people's face. But people like to give because they care about you and it feels good. And then, of course, because they care about the cause. But what we always say is don't think about it as I'm asking them to give me money, is you are asking them for an opportunity to feel really awesome about doing something for you. So let's talk about some of the tools that you can use for your team and your personal fundraising. So the number 1 thing you can do is to make a personal donation. So you can always start by making a personal donation. And that the reason that always is effective is that is a great talking point if you post it to Facebook or social media or things like that is, hey guys, I'm raising money for this event. I've already donated $25. Please, will you join me in donating $25 or whatever you can towards my goal of X? Posting to social media or sending emails and encouraging people to match your self-donation, awesome. You'll be amazed just by doing that single thing. And if you are talking about a team, if you are a part of a corporate team, consider going to your company and asking if they might do the first match or they might be a part of the first donation to encourage donations from your family, friends, coworkers, acquaintances. We'll talk a little bit about how you can connect your team fundraiser and your individual fundraiser to Facebook, if you have Facebook, which is the vast majority of us. And then we have an app for you all to download, whether you're a race or a More Than Pink Walk. that can help you with some of your tools. So the number one thing that you can do is customize your page. So when you register and you go back to your event site, you'll see that there's a chance to log in. And this is the same whether or not you're a race or a walk. And you'll see there's a dashboard. That's where you obviously can update your goal. But you'll see that there are some important tools and pages here. There's sending some email through the participant center. And we actually have some templates. So if you're like, I don't know what to say, there's some easy templates for you to either send through that or cut and paste. You can edit your page, which we'll talk about. And then we've got some tools. So you really want to make sure that you go through and you update your page. Update it with your goal. Update it with a picture, with a story. Because when you share your page, you want it to be as personal as possible. Because remember, the number 2 reason people give is because they're giving to you. You can also go here, and there are a couple of really cool tools. In your fundraising center, there's a tab that says Go Social, and that allows you to do a few things. So there are some already set up messages in some of your fundraising centers. And so you can literally like click on Facebook or email or Twitter or LinkedIn, and they've got some pre-written emails so you can actually send those out. Over here, for those of you, especially if you're raising money through work or things like that, you can actually download this little widget, and you can put it in your email stationery, and that will update it in real time. So that's another reason why if you set up your goal, it's really important to post it everywhere and anywhere that you can. And these are tools that, quite honestly, we see that a lot of our participants do not use enough of. So make sure that you go into your participant fundraising center and utilize that. The other thing is these same kinds of tools are available in our app. So if you are a part of a Race for the Cure, you can download the SGK Fundraise app. If you're part of a More Than Pink Walk, it's the More Than Pink Walk app. And we'll also put those in links when we send out this recording, just in case anybody's asking. But on those apps, it allows you to access your fundraising center. And it also allows you to do things like send texts that are pre-written. So if you're like me, and more, I'm sending texts and not sending emails. What's great about it is I can go into my app and choose a pre-written text that already links to my donation page. And then it will just give you the opportunity of me to, click on all my contacts, and boom, there's a text. Goes out right away. They can click on it immediately, and they can donate to your page. Bam. You can send out texts and reminders through the app, as well as on here through the back end of your participant center. And a reminder is that people really do need to be asked more than once. So I always talk about my mother sometimes. So my parents have been donating to my fundraising efforts for breast cancer for many years. And they are amazing, wonderful people who often need to be reminded like a dozen times. And quite often my mother's the same person who will forget to donate until even like the event is over and I've sent some pictures to show her, or my father sees it on Facebook. So the thing to remember is once you update your page and you use the tools, is that if you do it more than once, the better off your results will be. So here is an example of one of my pages that I've just gotten started. You'll see over there, me on the right. That was me about a year after I was diagnosed. And this is where you go in here and you can change your picture. You can change your story. Some of you guys are rock stars, especially those of you who have teams, and you create little like iPhone videos You can actually upload your own video there, or you can just put in a picture. So there's all these ways that you can customize your page to help tell your story. So we really encourage you guys to do that, and then of course push it out. And you'll see in your participant center how you can make that happen. Now, the number one thing that you can do to really make your fundraising take off is connecting to Facebook. So we know the vast majority of you have a Facebook account. If you do not, just hold for a moment, but we know that many of your team members will. So when you scroll down on your Facebook fundraiser or on your participant center, you will see this big blue box. And when you click on that big blue box, all it does is it takes you to Facebook, and it'll ask you a couple questions about permissions and things like that. Don't worry, Facebook does not use your data for anything other than connecting to our system. And what's great after that is once you connect it to Facebook, that you will actually be able to raise money on Facebook itself. So if you have, does anybody have any questions? Because in just a second, we are going to show you live how to do that. Anyone have questions? Good, somebody's talking about how much they really like the app. Awesome. Hey, Jessica, are you able to close our poll and sort of give us an update a little bit on where our people are coming from and
I sure am. All right, so 96% of our attendees are participating in a More Than Pink walk, and 72% of them say this is not their first time and race walk is their jam. We do have a handful of new people, so welcome to you all. And then 84% of our attendees are team captains, so way to lead the charge.
Awesome. So part of the reason why we're showing you a few of these things as team captains is because one of the biggest things you can do as a team captain is to help your participants and your teammates do some of these simple steps. So let's talk about Facebook for a second. So you'll see this is me, and this is actually an event that's passed, but I am registered for this event. So if you look here, you'll go to my fundraising center, and you'll see a few things. So here's my dashboard. Here's all the places where I can update my goal and update my page. And you'll see all of these areas where you can go social and send your messages. And you can also thank people. And you can go through here. So there are some people that donated to me. You've got your tools to edit your page. Ooh, let me come up here. And so this is where you can view and edit your page. So obviously many of you who are team captains, you will see you have the opportunity to edit your team page as well. But this is where, as you're advising your teammates, here's what you can do. But the number one thing that you can do to raise money is to connect to Facebook. So if you go here, my fundraiser is already connected to Facebook. So if you were not, it would show that previous screen that I showed you, which says reach your goal faster. So the number one thing we can tell you about connecting to Facebook is that you want to do this through your participant center. So you might have some people on your team who try to go to Facebook and set up a fundraiser, which is awesome, but that will not connect to your, of course, ever coveted thermometer on your personal and your team page. So if you go to your Facebook fundraiser, you'll see this right here. And this is where my fundraiser here for this particular one is ended. But what you will see is you will have your page. And the reason that it's important for you to update your story and your image before you connect to Facebook is because that will actually transfer over. So you'll see on this one, because I updated my picture later, it has a different picture. But what's nice is you can actually always edit your Facebook event and your fundraiser, just like you would any of the other things that you do on Facebook. See, more, so you can do all these things. And the great things is that you can invite people to your fundraiser. You can share it. You can do everything through Facebook, and your friends and family can donate on Facebook. And they have an option to share their data or not, or share their name or their email. So we are keeping all of your data safe and all of those of the people you care about. But that is a big thing that you could do, is really encourage people to set up your fundraiser in Facebook. So let's talk a little bit about what are some ideas of how we can get things going. So again, remember, you can set a fundraising goal, encourage each of your team to raise a specific amount. So when we talk about your goal is how many people, how much can they raise, how many people do you think might be some bigger fundraisers. Encourage yourself and your team to make a personal donation to get started. And then once your team is in place and you've kind of walked them through some of these tools, like the app or connecting through your email center or your participant center to push out social messages or to connect to Facebook, then they are motivated to fundraise. So what are some other ways that you can help especially get your team to fundraise? And now we're going to talk a little bit about some of those kind of fun team ideas. So if you have a team, obviously you're talking about connecting to Facebook, share on Twitter, using your participant center. Really getting involved in an event is a great way to engage people, to get them to register, and then also to get them to fundraise. And when we talk about an event, there's a couple of ways you can raise money. One of the ways is for you all to connect and sort of pool your money, because you're either putting on a little event or you're putting on a sale or you're doing things like that. The other way is to do an event that encourages people to raise money individually that goes to your team. So here's an example. If you are a part of a team that is connected to people in your office, you might host a raffle. And everybody enters the raffle, for $5, $20. Some great things to raffle off if you're trying to raise money through your office is talk to HR. Can you raffle off a day off? Could you raffle off a week off? We've seen some great corporate teams that do raffles for, $15, $20 a pop, and it's for an extra week off. And those things really drive some revenue for that team. You might, as a team, create some contests. Who could raise the most money? Maybe you'll get some donations from either some people in your community or your employers to give to the person who raises the most money on the team. You might decide to do something as sort of recognition if your entire team participates. And when we say participates, it means raises a little bit of money. So for example, you might have a team that's getting involved, and you decide that when 75% of your teammates, have some money raised, you're going to do a pizza party for them. But when 100% of your participants have fundraised, maybe you're going to stick your dad or your boss or somebody in a dunk tank, and everybody gets to toss some balls at the dunk tank. There are ways to create some fun, exciting contests and challenges amongst your team. And if you have some questions about how you might be able to do that in the next couple of weeks, definitely reach out to your local affiliate and your local event and say, hey, I've got this team and we're trying to figure out the best way to raise money. Please, give us some ideas. And they would be more than happy to sit down and talk through some ideas on how you can really drive some revenue in this last month or 2 weeks or 8 weeks, depending on how far you have until your event. And really get them engaged in fundraising. Quite honestly, what we see is for teams who are raising money before their event, what they find is that the mere act of doing all this fundraising is what gets their team fired up and excited. and it creates an event day experience that is sort of the culmination of all their great work, and it really truly does feel like a celebration. In addition, for those of you who have a More Than Pink Walk, many of our teams, if you raise a certain amount of money as a team, usually it's at least $2,500, you get to participate in an exciting exclusive teams area. So be sure you check out your local events website or talk to one of the staff or volunteers, because there's definitely some recognition for some of our teams who really step it up and raise at least $2,500. The other thing that most of our events are participating in some way, shape, or form, whether you're a race or a walk, is our individual recognition. So if you did not know that by fundraising, you have an opportunity to get a great thank you gift on behalf of Susan G. Komen and the Race for the Cure or the More Than Pink Walk, now is your chance. And you can check your local affiliates page. They might have slightly different items. But for the most part, I cannot tell you how much I use my wireless earbuds when I'm traveling from event to event. And obviously, you would never know it. I'm based in Atlanta, but for many of you, fall is actually coming. And some of those great jackets and shirts are some really cool ways to remember your great experience at your race or your walk this fall. So what can we do to move forward and get you guys really supercharged? So make sure you're making a self-donation, recruiting those team members, and get moving on that fundraising. So if you've already started fundraising and you're doing certain things, the big thing would be to shoot an email or send a text to your team and say, hey guys, I know we've done some great fundraising, but have we done some of these simple things? How many of you sent emails? How many of you have downloaded the app? For those of you who have a More Than Pink Walk app, you can actually deposit your offline checks into the app itself, just like a bank. We're testing that out with our More Than Pink Walks this fall. Have you downloaded your apps? Have you sent some texts? Should we plan some sort of team fundraising event as a group, in 2 weeks? Should we do something with our kids' baseball team or the football team to help raise money? Are there survivors or those living with metastatic breast cancer connected to your team? And we can help raise money in their honor. For those of you who might be on this call who are a survivor living with metastatic breast cancer, we're actually doing a call next week that's specifically for you. And it's all about how you can really tell your story to have the biggest impact. Because quite honestly, it is those stories that will drive those all-important funds. And if we want to create a world without breast cancer, and if we want to create an event where we can raise as much money as possible, we cannot do it without you. So we want to open it up to any sort of questions. If anyone has any specific questions about getting their team moving on fundraising, feel free to put those in the Q&A or put it in the chat. We really hope that this has fired you up a little bit. For those of you who are brand new, quite honestly, it is really, it's a lot easier than you think to raise money. One of the things that we really like to do is encourage, especially if you're doing some sort of event with your team or you're all gathering together, is to everybody make sure you've got your Facebook fundraiser integrated, because it's really fun to watch how much money you raise in just an hour or two without even really trying. That's not even without sharing later, just by merely setting up the fundraiser and having it show up on your timeline once. You would be amazed. We did an event locally where a member of a team decided to do it while the kickoff was going on, and they had raised $560 before they even got home. So it's really easy. So definitely think with your team about what are all the ways that perhaps we haven't yet started fundraising that we still can. And the great thing about some of the things we're talking about is because we know your events are soon, we know you don't have a ton of time to think about all the different ways that you might fundraise. So what we want to do is make it as easy as possible. And that is to make sure that your team is setting a goal that you have a plan for recruiting more people, that you log on to your participant center, you download your app, you connect to social media, you share your story as much as possible, more than once, and you find ways as a team to connect together to possibly raise money as a group so you can build the excitement for event day. So with that, if there are no other questions, we are going to thank you all so much for being a part of this call. Again, we are going to push out a link to this presentation and this recording for those of you who want to send it to people that you know. And obviously, we'll be sending it to a few of our people who could not make it today. But don't forget, there is still plenty of time to fundraise. And we are so excited that it looks like we really have people here from coast to coast on this call. And it is one of the greatest ways that we want to help you guys connect to each other. So don't worry, we're going to be doing some more of these in the future and throughout the next few years as you hopefully will come back year after year. And again, on behalf of Susan G. Komen and our National Race for the Cure and More Than Pink Walk series, we do really want to thank you all for being leaders in your community and helping us create a world without breast cancer. Thank you so much and have a great day.